company, when I entered in 2010, was doing great in terms of it's a very good managed services company, very very agile, very flexible, extremely customer friendly. You do anything and everything for the customer, and that has been the DNA of the company, and that's why the company sustained till date. Because there was not, I mean, you had much larger competitors, who are telco based, like a Reliance or a Airtel or a Tata and all the competitors. The whole reason of sustaining was that the company's DNA was very customer service, agile, flexible and all. But in companies of this scale, while these are the plus points, the negative point sometimes is that you don't have very formal organization structures, you don't have systems and processes. And when the company start growing, suppose you have access to capital and all this stuff, unless you are very well organized as an organization, the growth pangs just tear you apart. That is where possibly the reason that the investors at that time also thought that they should get a professional management from outside who possibly has seen much bigger part of this industry. That's where I came. So my mandate, frankly speaking, from that time till date has been that I'm able to give a stability and scale to the company, right? And the journey has been great. We have the best of the resources who are working in the company for 15 or 16 years. They have not left it. So skill set was never a problem. The spirit of customer service was never a problem. It was only a matter of how to give a structure and system and automation and process and system to the whole organization, so that company can become a self-driven thing without somebody having to push it all the time. That is what I have done in the last 7 or 8 years, if I try to shorten it. And I think that helped big time. Even in 2012, when we were also trying to see that, okay, we have grown enough, but I need, as a company, a huge access to capital for growing much bigger. And at the same time, people like NTT, and also there were a couple of other contenders at that time like Cisco, they were trying to grow big in the cloud space in India. And they were looking for a provider like us who can give them scalability. And so it was almost a 1-year process where we could not go public because the scale of the company was not good enough that I can either get listed on Nasdaq or I get into the Indian stock exchange. So the best part was to get acquired by a strategic investor, and that is where NTT came in. It was almost like a 1-year diligence, and after 1 year of diligence they found us to be attractive. There were many reasons for it. One was, of course, with us they got an extremely good footprint in India, a running organization through which they can acquire Indian market. Number 2, in the NTT's global scheme of things, they are present in like 132 countries with like 100 plus data centers, but most of those data centers and network business are like data center business is a co-location business. It's not a managed services business, while network was primarily managed services business. So with NTT coming in, not only they were able to get access to the Indian market, but they were able to get access to my managed services capabilities. And ever since 2012 when NTT came, the journey has become further better. Why? Because I'm getting access to the best capital to make large data centers, to invest into whatever capital I want to put in to serve the market. I'm able to get managed services business from NTT's subsidiaries worldwide, including their end customers, to manage them remotely. It's a big business I'm getting. And third is that because NTT is present in almost all geographies of the world, they have global relationship with some of the largest customers in the world, either in NTT America or NTT Europe or NTT Japan or NTT Hong Kong. Those customers, when they're coming to India and trying to grow in India, right, some of the large cloud operators, we all know their names, because of the balance sheet of NTT, they don't question me, which at one time used to be a question, right? They have global agreements with NTT already. Till the time I'm technically capable to deliver service in India, I just am able to get that business which otherwise possibly I could not have got at that time. So to summarize everything what I said, the journey has been great. The company in its own Netmagic at that time was able to stabilize itself. We were on a great growth path. With NTT coming in 2012, right, now we are 100% part of NTT. Everything is great. Access to capital, access to best of the global relationships, a lot of managed services coming in to us. And the further good part is that maybe Japanese and especially NTT have cracked the code of how to grow globally. So while they are into my annual planning, long-term planning, larger capital investments and all, but the day-to-day running of the business in India, they are just left to the Indian management, right? So we are retaining our agility and flexibility or speed of decision making to serve the customers as it is the way we were earlier, right? And that was the key. Sometimes these acquisitions can go very, very bad because suddenly you become extremely bureaucratic. It's not the case. And that is the reason that if you see our growth in the last, we always have been growing like 30%, but with base increasing every year, it's very difficult to grow at 30%. But we have been able to maintain that thanks to so much of investments which NTT is doing. So there are like 2 or 3 perspectives to this, right? One is the data center from a building point of view. You know, data center sometimes you correlate with the building, the co-location, large building, high power, high cooling, that aspect. And second part of data center is the IT services, the cloud and the managed services you deliver on the top of that, right? So let me give both the perspectives, right? First perspective is that ever since like 98 something this industry started in India. It was only VSNL at one stage, is the government body which got acquired by Tata. Even till 2010-11, the largest scale of data center you will find will be 1,000 rack data center with some 6, 7, 8 MV of power, 3, 4 kV of power per rack. The type of application, the type of workloads were also like that only. It was enterprises. The cloud was nowhere there till 2010, right? You were not having too much of broadband in the market like what we see with 3G and 4Gs and the type of fiber which has gone under the ground. We all know the story, right? It was not there. So accordingly, it was not too much of content also, right? Now all these driving factors, right, that you have got best of the internet, best of the broadband, and resultantly too much of content being created and consumed by the users now. We all are practically getting data free on our mobiles. And government now putting so much of push on digitization. Demonetization is helping digitization, which in turn is helping me because that content got hosted in data center, right? When you talk about GST, ultimately net means everything getting into online records, the back end transaction, the front end transaction, everything gets online, right? So smart cities, everything is helping this trend of digitization, which in turn means there is a network to the transaction of the data, and then there's some place to store it, right? This is the economy and the market drivers from all across. These, and of course adoption of cloud, which means no more boxes in the customer premises, all compute and storage into some central places which are cloud grids, which are in turn hosted into some data centers, right? These drivers have led to the need, which is a global trend, of much larger scale data centers than what were getting created in India. They were good quality data centers, but the bar of quality of data centers and the size of data center has just changed altogether with these trends coming in the hyperscalers, like if I give the names like Amazons or Azures or maybe SoftLayer or a Google or a Alibaba or a Facebook, all these guys who have been used to very, very large scale deployment of data centers and very, very sophisticated quality of data center from uptime and performance point of view. They demanded the same thing in India. They had to come to India because the market is here, so you have to be here to serve the market, but they demanded the same type and quality of infrastructure in India. And that led to us creating much larger scale of data centers. So if you see my largest data center, when I'm saying mine, it practically applies to all my competition also. My largest data center till 2010 was possibly a 60,000 square feet of data center with 6 megawatt of power. My next data center after that in 2014 was double than that, which was 1,20,000 square feet data center with double the power. Just next year, the data center which I launched in Mumbai in just October 2015 I launched DC5 Mumbai. That was 3 lakh square feet data center, one single data center, which was sum total of all my existing capacity, was just one new data center with almost 24 megawatt of power, right? And now within 2 years, I actually got the need simply because of surging demand of the market. I am right now creating 2 data centers, one of 3 lakh square feet, another one of 2,50,000 square feet. The 3 lakh square feet talking about 32 megawatt of power, and the 2,50,000 talking about 20 megawatt of power. So if I just give, I'm just throwing some numbers on you, but these are scales which we could not have imagined. One single data center which I'm creating today possibly was summing up almost a huge entire capacity of the data center capacity in country till few years back, right? So one is the size and scale in terms of space and power has increased tremendously, and we are playing that game simply because the skill sets, skill set and capital, both of them are available with us, right? You can't have only capital, otherwise every single builder would end up making a data center if it's only a matter of capital. But at the same time, if you have only skill set and not access to capital, again there's a problem. So thankfully we have both, right? Mm-hmm. And if I talk many things in terms of the way you deliver power, right? I mean, these customers demand power infrastructure which can never go down. They want 100% uptimes. The SLAs we are signing with these guys are not 5 nines. I signed 100% uptime of power, which means 2 sources of power at much higher capacities with generator sets backup, with full automation layer coming in between, where any downtime automate leads to generators and all this thing. One single site of in Mumbai, my DC5 actually has got 3 lakhs liters of diesel stored right in front of my building underground. Now if I just give you a sense, 3 lakh liters of diesel is equal to 60 petrol stations, because one petrol station is equal to 5,000 liters typical. So we have got 60 petrol pumps practically running in front of my building, right? So that's the aspect. And simply why? Because a customer like that, he says, I'm hosting in Bombay because of 10 reasons. Because Bombay is very good, it's got international fiber is landing here, the market is here and things like this. But Mumbai has a problem of once in 10 years, it will get flooded like anything. And at that time, number one, Tata Power or Reliance Power will cut the power, right, for extended period, which happened in 2015, 2005. And second is, at that time, possibly all the roads will be flooded, and even the fuel truck cannot come from a HPCL or BPCL, whatever the stock warehouse or whatever, to your premises. So what will happen? So they demanded 72 hours sustainability of my building on my own without having any power or without having any drop of fuel from outside. That could have been served only when I commit to them that I can store almost 3 lakh liters of diesel right near to my building. So I'm just giving you one example that how the paradigm of quality of data center has shifted. Size of data center has shifted. The infrastructure you are putting in, like this example, the diesel fuel capacity has changed tremendously. Third, and possibly the biggest thing is the density of power per rack has increased tremendously. What we used to talk about 3 kVA or 4 kVA per rack as an average power per rack, today all these hyperscaler customers talk about 8 to 9 kVA per rack as an average. And I have customers in my Bangalore data center, one of the customers who does his R&D operations in my data center with almost 150 racks, the average power per rack is almost 17 kVA. And it's not 1 or 2 racks. All racks run at that load, right? If you have to deliver that type of power, right, it again means a very different treatment, right from the quality of building you create, because the loading capacity of the building changes altogether. It's very heavy workload. The way will you bring that workload, the way you bring those racks and material into your building. So my building design need to have those types of equipment that the moment a truck comes with the equipment, I'm able to, without a tilt, I'm able to bring that equipment from the truck, just take it down from a Hydra type of a machine, slide it into my building, slide into a cargo elevator, which is almost like 3 ton, 4 ton type of capacity with a height which is much higher than normal lift. I'm just trying to give you some nitty-gritties how the things are changing technically. And then when I take it to my floor, the floor height itself should be like this, that because today now there are no 42 U racks. People are getting 49 U racks, right? Preloaded. You can't even do a small tilt into those racks. It means the height of my individual floor of a building itself is changing. The lift should open right on the raised floor so that there is no ramp and just go to server hall. So just to give you an example, this is a very, very critical parameter into the design of data center when these global customers come in, right? The moment we talk about high density, the second part is how do you cool, right? The conventional cooling does not work, right? The chiller system which you have put in, my entire terrace of data centers are just full of chillers. The redundancies people are asking for are like, is no more n+1, it is n+3, n+4 type of redundancies people are talking about, right? The big cooling pipes which come from the top to my individual floors have to be everything redundant, right? It practically means double investment, right? So, and then within localized into a server hall, containment has become a default thing now, right? You have to do either a cold well containment or a hot well containment, but containment has become a default because otherwise you cannot handle that type of high density loads, right? Security is another aspect, right? If you come, I don't know whether you come to my DC5 or not, like you must have seen, I think, and even then you must have come only to my 7th floor, which was head office where we sit. You went inside my one of the server halls?
Yes.
If you've gone there, you must have seen you cross 7 or 8 layers of security before you could enter that, right? The security started right from campus, from the main road, right? To my building boundary, you must have seen that 12 feet or 14 feet with barbed wires. Your vehicle was scanned from below. I get a complete picture of your vehicle under scan, so I can see if you're putting a bomb inside the vehicle. If you're not seen, I'll show you those pictures. Very high-res images. A driver photo is taken, the car number plate photo is taken, and then there are multiple barriers right from your scanning X-ray, a barcoded visitor tag given to you, and then on every floor there are barriers, and then on the server hall again the biometric comes in. So basically all these things, and by the way, on the building top I have very high-res cameras which can see almost 4 to 5 kilometers beyond the building what is happening, and we are monitoring it continuously. Now these are not something which we invented ourselves. These are the demands of the global customers who are so paranoid about uptime and security, because come to think of it that hopefully the negative elements of the society don't get to know about it, but a data center is much more critical and risky compared to maybe an individual government or a other building, because if something happens to data center, multiples of businesses will go down, right?
That's true.
So it's a paradigm shift in the way you are creating the data buildings. Second part, now coming to the IT part of that, how the things are changing, you asked that question, is that we can see a drastic change in the way hosting services are getting consumed, right? At one time, I remember in 98 and 99 when I got into this data center thing in Reliance, convincing a customer to even come physically and just co-locate into a third-party data center was absolutely like no. People thought that we will just get into their boxes and take their data and things like this. There was a lack of education and knowledge about it. Gradually in the last 10-8 years, co-location became an accepted norm. You cannot create your own small adaptive data center. There's the power of power, cooling, scalability and all. Then it shifted to managed hosting. It still are dedicated boxes to the customer, but managed by a third party like us. But in the last 5 or 6 years, the entire discourse has changed to cloud. Something which was a totally no-no in 2010. That's how cloud journey started. Today cloud has started at least at an IaaS layer. It's practically kilos and liters now. That's how typically happens to a product life cycle. There's always a peak and disillusionment and then acceptance, and that is where the public cloud has come in now, right? So today if I see that other than the very large hyperscalers or very large banks who still think that we need to have their own equipment, or possibly they already have invested so much crores of money they don't want to just discard it, they are the only ones who take co-location as a plain service, power and cooling and rest everything they do on their own. 90% of the enterprise, right, which include by the way government, surprising, thanks to the current government, have shifted to either a managed hosting or a public cloud or a combination of this, right? And accordingly, the way we are deploying our technology, the way we are deploying our skill sets, the type of manpower we hire, the type of operational tools we are put in data centers, right? Some of the best of the tools in globally available like ServiceNow and things like this. We were not putting them earlier. Now we are putting all of them. And all this information available to customer through portals. Customer want to still see everything, whether it's hosted on a public cloud or even if it's plain hosted in a co-location environment, he still want to see his rack. He want to remotely see the camera monitoring his rack. He want to see the access logs of his cages and things like this. So the profile of consumption of the same data center service from a colo to a cloud, and the type of value level of the outsourcing from a colo level to total outsourcing, including operating systems and databases and middleware being managed by third party like us, and the demand of quality, everything has like increased tremendously.